women aboard Captain Kidd's ship knew that as soon as they reached the next hidden cove, they would vanish forever. So when a hurricane snapped the masts and plunged the pirate crew into chaos, they risked everything in an attempt to make an impossible escape. They slipped into a tiny rowboat beneath the raging waves and shouted to Captain Kidd, who flew into a rage and killed 2 of his own men on the spot. Picture the year 1699. Trace your finger along the map from the Indian Ocean to the coast of Madagascar, and imagine the smell of wet oak, boiling pine tar, damp hemp rigging, stale bilge water, and sulfur drifting across the deck of Captain William Kidd's weather-beaten vessel as heavy swells rolled beneath a sky blackened by approaching storms. The women aboard had once been passengers, merchants' wives, servants, or travelers whose ordinary lives ended the moment their ship fell into Kidd's hands. Dragged below deck into a cramped cargo hold where seawater leaked through swollen planks and rats nested between barrels of spoiled provisions, they quickly realized that rescue would never come. Days blended into weeks as they survived on worm-infested hardtack, rancid salted meat, foul rainwater, and whatever scraps remained after the crew had eaten. Some trapped rats beneath broken crates, while others chewed softened wood or bitter roots from damaged cargo simply to quiet the pain of starvation. Yet hunger soon became less frightening than the whispers spreading through the darkness. The pirates planned to sail for a remote anchorage beyond the reach of naval patrols, where the prisoners would disappear forever. Refusing to accept that fate, several women began secretly watching every movement above the hatch. They counted the changing watches, memorized which sailors drank themselves unconscious after sunset, and noticed that a violent tropical storm was slowly building on the horizon. While the pirates celebrated another successful capture, the prisoners understood that the same storm threatening to destroy the ship might also become the only chance they would ever have to reclaim their freedom. As Captain Kidd's crew prepared the ship for the approaching gale, every sailor became consumed by the endless work required to survive an Atlantic storm. Topsails were reefed, loose cannons secured with heavy breaching ropes, powder barrels lashed beneath the orlop deck, and coils of wet hemp rigging tightened against the violent motion of the mast. Amid the confusion, the women carefully observed every routine. They noticed that only 2 guards remained below deck after sunset, while the rest struggled to secure the vessel above. During the previous week, they had quietly gathered broken nails, splinters of iron hoops from shattered barrels, and short lengths of rope hidden beneath damp cargo. One elderly prisoner, once the daughter of a shipwright, discovered that years of salt water had weakened the iron staple anchoring several chains into an oak beam. Every night, when waves crashed loudly against the hull, the women scraped at the corroded metal with their improvised tools, stopping instantly whenever footsteps echoed across the hatch. Their hands bled, their fingernails split, and rust stained their skin. Yet the staple loosened little by little. Above them, the wind intensified until every timber groaned beneath the strain. Rain forced its way through the deck seams, dripping steadily into the hold as lanterns swung wildly with each enormous swell. Then, just after midnight, a deafening crack echoed from above as the foretopsail yard snapped under the force of the storm. Pirates rushed across the deck shouting contradictory orders while the guards abandoned their post to help save the ship. The women looked at one another in silence. For the first time since their capture, no one stood between them and the ladder leading into the raging darkness above. The storm transformed Captain Kidd's ship into a floating battlefield where nature proved more dangerous than any naval squadron. Waves crashed across the deck with enough force to tear loose barrels, smash longboats against their davits, and send frightened sailors sliding across the rain-soaked planks. Lightning illuminated the Black Sea for only a heartbeat before darkness swallowed everything again. The women climbed silently from the hold, keeping low behind overturned casks and coils of tarred rope, while every pirate fought desperately to save the vessel. No one noticed the soaked, exhausted prisoners moving through the chaos because every eye remained fixed on the straining masts above. One woman quietly cut the line, securing the ship's spare launch with a rusted knife hidden beneath her clothing, while another loosened the tackle, holding it against the ship's side. They had only one opportunity. As the vessel rolled violently to port, a towering wave slammed against the tumble-home, throwing half the crew to the deck. The launch crashed into the sea below instead of shattering against the hull, remaining attached by a single painter line. Without hesitation, the women climbed down the rain-soaked rope, their hands burning as wet hemp tore at their skin. One after another, they dropped into the violently rocking boat, while thunder drowned every sound. Above them, Captain Kidd bellowed orders through the storm, unaware that the prisoners he believed completely broken had vanished into the darkness beneath his own ship. Only when another flash of lightning revealed the empty hatch and the missing launch did the first horrified cry echo across the deck. But by then the storm had already hidden the escaping women among mountains of black water. For hours, the tiny launch rose and plunged between enormous swells, while the women fought not only the sea, but exhaustion itself. They possessed no compass, almost no fresh water, and only 2 cracked oars that threatened to snap with every stroke. Rain became their greatest ally. They stretched torn canvas between the thwarts to collect precious fresh water, filling empty bottles and broken casks before the storm passed. Dawn finally revealed Captain Kidd's ship far behind them, its damaged rigging forcing the pirates to repair shattered spars instead of continuing the chase. Even so, the danger was far from over. The survivors knew that any pirate lookout spotting the drifting boat would bring them back into captivity. They rode only at night, hiding among rocky coves and small uninhabited islands during daylight hours. Hunger soon returned with merciless force. They gathered shellfish from tidal pools, caught tiny fish with lines woven from loose hemp fibers, searched for seabird eggs hidden among coastal rocks, and boiled edible roots found near freshwater streams. Despite their suffering, their spirits slowly changed. The terrified prisoners who had once hidden beneath the deck of a pirate ship were becoming determined survivors, encouraging one another through every hardship. Each mile carried them farther from the nightmare that had begun beneath the black flag. Yet they understood that freedom would mean nothing unless they could reach a settlement before starvation, thirst, or another pirate vessel found them first. Every distant sail on the horizon inspired equal measures of hope and terror, because they no longer knew whether it belonged to rescuers or another crew of ruthless sea raiders. Nearly 2 weeks after their escape, the women spotted a merchant brig beating slowly against the morning wind. Too weak to shout, they tied pieces of torn white cloth to broken oars and raised them above the drifting launch. At first, the distant crew believed the tiny boat had been abandoned, but as they drew closer, they saw exhausted survivors barely capable of standing. The captain immediately ordered his sailors to haul the women aboard, where they were given fresh water, warm broth, and dry blankets for the first time since their capture. As their strength slowly returned, they recounted the terrifying voyage aboard Captain Kidd's ship, describing the hunger, the darkness below deck, the violent storm, and the desperate escape that had depended upon courage rather than weapons. Their rescuers listened in stunned silence, realizing how close the women had come to disappearing forever into the vast Indian Ocean. Although the scars of captivity remained long after they reached safety, none of them ever forgot the night when the same storm that threatened to destroy Captain Kidd's vessel became the unexpected ally that carried them toward freedom. Sailors repeated the tale in ports from Madagascar to the Caribbean, turning it into one of the sea's most remarkable legends. A reminder that even aboard one of history's most feared pirate ships, hope could survive in complete darkness, and that determination, patience, and unity sometimes accomplished what cannon, swords, and entire navies could not. Years later, whenever sailors gathered in waterfront taverns, they still whispered about the women who vanished from Captain Kidd's pirate ship during the worst storm of the season. Some claimed the sea itself had protected them, while others believed their escape was impossible. The survivors never called it a miracle. They remembered only the hunger, the fear, the endless darkness below deck, and the single decision to risk everything rather than surrender. Captain Kidd continued his final voyages, unaware that the prisoners he had considered powerless would leave behind a story far more enduring than another stolen prize. In the end, treasure was forgotten. Ships rotted beneath the waves, and even the pirates' names slowly faded. But the courage of the women who escaped against impossible odds became the legend that outlived them all.